Hey guys, Loïc here, Synth Design Podcast, Episode 2. My camera just broke, so I'm with my phone. We're going to be talking to Oxi Instruments today, and I think that what they've done is remarkable simply because they're a tiny company in Spain and they took one of the biggest challenge anyone could take by building a crazy sequencer that could compete with huge companies around the world. I think it's just remarkable to see stuff like this coming out from a small company. Before we're going to dive into this, I wanted to show you guys this little thing that I'm super proud of. This is a synth kit that I designed for my students. We have a workshop in the coming days, and it's like it's like a little modular thing, but it's not really about just keeping it this way. It's about designing the patch internally and then flashing out the controllers for the user and designing an interface that would be meaningful for the challenge they're getting. They're going to get different challenges, and based on the challenge, they need to design the interface for this. Without further ado, Oxi. By the way, they just broke 1,000% of their Indiegogo campaign, so you might want to check it out. It just has a few more days. I think another 10 days from the day this is going to be released. So you might want to check it out on Indiegogo. And yeah, subscribe, share, whatever people do on YouTube. And I'll see you in the next episode. Oxi Instruments. Challenges you were facing when you had to make like drastic changes. Do you remember the first version that you actually held in your hand that was interactable?
I can show you if you want.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, there we go.
So
these buttons were done by me and this was a crazy story of the buttons. Now it's like for more than 1 year when Carlos like when we reconnected, all these problems were solved already, but it was really tough to get the first prototype of the buttons. And I think this is a problem that everybody faces when they want to do a product. And as you can see, there were a little screen, many more buttons, and only one encoder.
Right.
And very basic PCB design with just the concept of everything. And then we have here more things. Ooh. This is another PCB revision, a little bit better made. And this is all homemade buttons. And
how did you make them?
yeah. Well, I'm going to tell the trick. no trick is because if you want to ask a manufacturer to do buttons for you, you will have to invest a lot of money as well. In most of the cases, they ask you for a production mold and for minimum quantities, and you are in prototyping. So how are you going to pay for a production mold, or how are you going to make 1,000 of units that you don't know if they are going to work?
Of course.
And I don't know how the big companies do this. In my case, I found a Chinese supplier that offered the prototyping service, and having these buttons done was really affordable. I mean, it wasn't 100 euros, but it wasn't 1,000, so it was pretty okay. And I made them with the experience that I previously got with these prototypes, and they were made with a 3D printer. So I started the first try was to use photo printer. I don't know how they are named, but not the filament printers, the other ones, the ones that use resin and light to cure the resin. Well, and I started with flexible resin and trying to build the button itself, but it didn't work because the these little movement plates and moving parts uh, are really weak, and it break everything. Everything broke, and when you after 2 hours you uh, like bring up the the box of the printer, and you see that a piece of shit in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And one day trying with different parameters, different resins, and nothing worked. I saw videos of people doing these kind of things but I wasn't able to do it. So the second approach was to do the contrary, to make a solid mold. So to make like the negatives, the parts of the buttons, and then fill the mold with silicone,
Mm-hmm.
and like casting silicone. It
Yeah.
was like that's why you see the bubbles and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of the casting. And then the next, it worked like really well. As you can see, the buttons has the more or less the form that we wanted, but then you have to solve the contact issue, and the contact issue was another big problem to solve, because you don't find the conductive ink that is necessary that is fixed to the silicon,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the inks that you will find on the web, uh, they are not ready for silicon. The ink falls, and the problem is that it falls on the contact of the button, so it makes permanent contact, and you have to clean. So it was another big struggle, and it's, as I said, it's not something trivial. Maybe you can like use conductive peels and paste them, but for example, for these buttons that are like a square,
Mm-hmm.
they have a square form, it's not possible. There are people using Adafruit, for example, the ones that I think a lot of projects started with the Adafruit buttons,
Mm-hmm.
which are this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is when you want to do your custom ones, you don't. You need actually and it's very important, because the buttons define the how is your project going to be,
Yeah, the
and
character
so
of the design, of course. The every small piece here is changing how people are going to use it, or the aesthetics of it as well. But then you actually did not really have any prototype before this. Like everything was custom made from the beginning. You didn't use anything that was off the shelf buttons just for testing, even.
no, I went like the
Full
crazy
on.
way, because that would mean to solve this side of the product, but I would have to still struggle with the other buttons. So I knew that I needed a solution.
Yeah.
There is one. Oh, this is. I don't know if you can hear anything. I can send you these videos if you want. They
Yeah,
are
no,
really
that's okay.
short.
It's more about how it's interesting to see that all these versions, for instance, don't really have um, any knobs. Um, and I think that the story about making the buttons is fascinating. Um, so the silicon casting is something that you actually made on your own.
Yes.
So the Chinese company did not work what they provide you.
No, then I found a Chinese supplier that provided the prototyping service, and they made the first actual Oxi buttons,
Mm.
which are the ones that I'm using now.
Mm.
More than 1 year, and there were minor changes, but not not a lot, and because the first design was like decent. I mean, not, for example, the labels. I have mm, I can show you here. These were the first buttons that we have.
Yeah, maybe you can stop sharing the screen so I can see it
Of
better.
course,
Yeah.
Cloud. Yeah, yeah. No, this
Yeah.
is the buttons. So no colors, only the concept. The concept is still here,
Right.
and mm, yes, once you have something, it's more easy to then to iterate and to improve.
Yeah.
the buttons that you see now are the third iteration. So not many. It once you have the mold, it's only about changing the silk print.
Yeah.
And I made a few fixes in the hardware design in the case, but the buttons still are still working for us. So then when we go to production, I will have to do the final adjustments.
Yeah.
But it was okay. It was, when you are starting, you can't do thousands of molds
No, of
because
course not.
money you will spend making molds is really expensive.
Mhm.
You have to be like careful and trying to optimize the resources. Otherwise, you can't spend thousands of hours coding, but you can't do
Yeah.
all the prototypes that you would like.
So when you work throughout the process and you try to validate your assumptions, you mentioned earlier that you had a small Facebook group community and you reached out to people to get feedback. Yeah.
Not that way really. The Facebook group we started with when we already have a solid
Okay.
product, a concept, and Carlos was already in, and we added a lot of features, and
So
it was already, how do you say, a selling product.
yeah. Okay. So the Facebook group came later, but then what you mentioned that where you met Carlos, this was on a general Facebook group.
Yes, in a very local group for modular guys.
Right. And then you just shared your concept. Was it like a video or a picture or what? How did you? What was the goal to? I mean, I can imagine that you're working really hard on an idea that's fairly innovative and new, and you're just sharing it like this on social media.
Mm, no, and really in the beginning, very few people. Uh, it's this not where we live is not really a place where a lot of people is doing things. It is not Berlin that you go anywhere and you find people doing projects and communities of people making things. This is a little bit harder because there is not that culture here, and even more where we live. And so, but I have a few producers friends that live here. They are professional producers, and and well, it's easy to say, for example, hey, instead of one knob on one encoder, place four encoders that you are. I had like one encoder doing like four functions, and you had to change between all these four functions. And I said, yes, we need four encoders. If we want to go more performative, we want four encoders. And that's the main change. All the rest of the functionality was like decided by me. And but when 1 year ago, more or less, Carlos jumped in, uh, he started to giving me more performative ideas, and he was like the main contributor to adding cool features and to polishing the behavior of the device. There were not many more people involved. As I said, one of this producer guy, and but not many more. This hasn't been done by a lot of the opinion from this game. This doesn't came from the opinion of a lot of people.
Yeah. So testing was locally and with people you knew. But you still shared it on social media in the early stages.
Not we shared when the Oxi, the buttons, the final labels, the final functionality was not the final, but for example, we have four modes. They were already planned to be four modes and to be like interchangeable.
Yeah.
And there were like this crazy CV layout. It was already Well, we didn't have it working already when we released that, but we wanted to know. We Carlos knew, hey, this has to be fully configurable and
Yeah.
fully modular, and fully everything, and we worked around that idea. That was the goal. We had
Yeah.
to figure out how to do it, and the obvious reason was to use the grid that we have instead of menus. So
Yeah.
anytime we have any problem, we use the grid.
Yeah.
That's
But
the summary.
uh, uh,
If you have a grid, use it.
yes. Yeah, grids are super useful for sequencing, absolutely, especially when they're so big. Um, but there's like a hole in the story that I don't understand because Carlos said you said that you actually saw the project online and then you joined, or did I get something wrong?
No, we met in the group, and because we knew from a long time before, I
Right.
showed him the project, and he told, okay, he only does melodies and chords, and I told, hey, wait, I'm still coding, mate. You have to be patient. I have been
Okay. Okay.
struggling
Okay.
with fucking buttons, you know. It took
Okay.
a
I see.
while.
I see. I see. I see. I see. Okay. So it's not like you shared the project on Facebook and then Carlos saw it and was like, "Oh, this is really cool. Let's
No,
work together." Okay. Okay.
no.
Okay. That's what I didn't get wrong. Okay. Okay. So basically, the whole thing was tested locally, and then you come up with ideas. Then Carlos comes up with ideas. You figure out how to combine all these things together, and you work with other producers, friends of yours, to get more feedback. Uh,
A
uh,
little bit of
a
more
little
feedback,
bit,
yes.
yeah, to get some more modifications. um do you remember a moment where you felt uh, um looking back, you feel like this was such a stupid mistake, like it was a really really big mistake and it wasted a lot of time for us, and like if I would do things differently now, I would, like, this moment in time I would probably change?
Yes, well, there were a few of these moments, not so many, because um, my major struggle was with the buttons. It's incredible because once that I had the buttons, making the case wasn't that difficult.
Right.
I mm, yes, maybe not having planned more knobs, but for placing more knobs you need much more space.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure that I would place more knobs because you have buttons, and mm, in at the moment that I started doing the buttons, I didn't have, and I didn't know about the Chinese supplier of
Mm.
this prototyping, so I couldn't do anything better because I was still trying to find somebody. And actually, I tried to look for buttons before starting to do them by my own, um, but mm, it was like around $7,000 to make buttons,
Yeah.
and
No,
you
that's crazy.
imagine spending all the money in the first version of the buttons that are not the current. It
Yeah.
would make no sense.
Yeah.
That's not the way. So until I found this the supplier, and I am very grateful to these people because they made this possible. Actually,
Yeah, that's
it's so
amazing.
crazy that you depend so much on because I could like do a PCB with buttons, normal buttons, and LED placed
Yeah.
beside the
Yeah.
button. That's what most of the people want to start.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask me how I make the buttons, but I know we needed silicon buttons in the end,
Yeah.
so we had to find a
There's no
solution.
compromise.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the interface, or let's maybe first of all, I'm really curious, what came first? Was it the programming of the idea? You have an idea in your head and you're like, I should do this. This was like 2 years ago. Was it first of all an interface that you had in mind, or and then realizing some sort of an interface, or was it first of all programming, or what's the process?
No, it started with a draft drawing of the Oxy I'm looking for because it's so crappy that it's worth to see.
Crappy is fantastic.
Not that crappy. I already knew that I wanted in aluminum with buttons and ah, I forgot to mention the first prototype ran in Max for Life.
Right.
That's important.
Cool.
And
So you actually built it in Max for Live,
yeah,
and in terms
I
of
can
the
give it I can give it to you even the Max for Life device.
I think you should share it to the community. I think that's really interesting. It's really cool.
Let me check. Let me check where it is.
I would definitely share it with my community if I get something like this because it's fun to see. I think people are really interested in knowing how you initiate how you realize an idea because to me even like the product was not released yet when we have this conversation, but it feels like a success story because it's actually realized. I can only imagine how complicated and how challenging it is to go through all this time to figure out how to make it work, how to get all these buttons, for instance, how to like really make something that looks like a production of Arturia, but you're like, yeah, a guy in Spain just like trying to figure out how to do this thing on his own. That's really remarkable.
Can you see my screen?
I can see, yeah.
This is the first prototype that I used for going to an how you say a startup incubator or something like that.
Okay.
This is the like more or less the well, this is not actually the like the presentation, but a draft for me
Yeah.
to start placing ideas. I passed the first like round of the. Um, I talk in singular because at that moment I was only myself, and but I didn't have a prototype hardware. I didn't have anything. So in case they like they let me continue in more stages of the process,
Hmm.
it would have been a bad idea because I needed 2 years to actually finish it. So now I can go to them again and show, hey guys, finally
Yeah, yeah.
more white hair and less hair,
Yeah,
but it's done.
it's done. Yeah. Maybe now you don't really need them that much.
That's true. This is the name of the startup, and I want to show you. Look, this is the video. Can you hear it?
We don't hear it, but I do see it. So this was the video you used to promote it uh,
Yes,
to,
to the video that I sent to the startup incubator. Yes.
to the incubator.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, it's in Spanish, as you can see.
Yeah, but that's cool. I mean, I really love the idea that it's very local. Then and you're also saying like we don't really have a community like in Berlin, so like you really had to invent a lot of things on your own, and you were really persevering with this to really make it happen. And I think that when a lot of people look at this now, they kind of like, yeah, okay, that's like a company, like a professional company made this product, and now this product is going to be released and we can buy it. And they maybe forget like where it actually comes from and how much sweat and tears and hairs had to go out for us to actually get something like this now in our hands.
Yes, that's the true story that nobody knows that what is behind, and it's much harder than do, for example, Eurorack module, because
Absolutely.
with the Eurorack module you have mm, all the problems. That's the good point of the modular stuff, because the case is for it's okay, it's valid for all the modules, so you don't have to you only have to worry about the hardware
Hmm.
and the panel. but you don't have to worry about buttons and mechanical design and even certification and all these kind of things. You don't need them either. So it's really the good way to start. But I wanted to start with a more general product that is more valid for the mass, not mass, but for a more general public. So I didn't have to struggle that much then to sell it if the idea was in the end successful. And that's the result. We are getting people from many different areas: MIDI stuff, hardware, DAW, and modular. That's the good point. If I only had focused on modular, it will be much more difficult. And here you can see the Max for Live device.
Oh, beautiful. Cool. So what I'm really curious to understand is the information architecture, like the structure of the interface, how you lay things out, what's the logic behind probably mainly the left side of the interface, but also in connection with the sequencer itself. Can you maybe put it on the screen? Maybe you have a picture from the website or something that we can like really see the interface, and you can maybe go through like the hierarchy of how things are designed.
Well, as you see, there are many things in common with the Max for Live device. And when you start taking ideas from other products, for example, the song mode, which is like really complex now, but I know that I wanted to have a song mode like in any other sequencer, but not a crappy one, not a one like you only can change patterns and that's it. That's nothing. That's not anything that you will really need for a performance. That's not enough, right? We can agree. You could manage a little bit and trying to do things with that, but it's not the proper way. The performer has a better song mode, but now in the Oxi, like I think we take this to not a next level that much, but it has been like really improved. I'm talking about the song mode because it's something that wasn't planned from the beginning, but as you can see, there are like the 4 sequencers. Here in the video that I show you, in the video that I showed you before, there were already like 3 sequencers in the Ableton, in the Max for Live device. So there was one with melody, another one with chords, another one with drums, and the final one, it was another, in the beginning, it was another mono sequencer. So I knew that to compete with current like sequencers, we had to add a polyphonic mode, totally free polyphonic, not the core mode, which is polyphonic as well, but it's not. It offers you different, it's more fixed, but because you can choose among the available chords, but in the poly mode you can do everything. So it's up to you how to configure every sequencer to get the most of the device. If you want more tracks, for example, Polyend has 8 tracks, the sequencer of Polyend, but you can get that only with one sequencer. So you have another 3 sequencers free for doing whatever you want. And maybe if you want to have a lead melody where you want to have a lot of control from, you will need to transpose, to loop, to tweak it fast. You will probably want to use a mono sequencer. But if you need I don't know, you can also have 2 polys plus 2 multi-tracks, for example. When I'm telling this is like how you can get the most of only 4 sequences. Actually, it's like, oh, you only have 4 tracks. No, you don't have only 4 tracks. If you want, you have many more tracks. But with this only 4, you can like use the song mode for having only 4 lanes of patterns. Otherwise, imagine that the sequencer were 32 tracks, have all the features that we have now for 32 tracks will mean that you will need a 32 grid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and you know that you will need a much bigger interface and all what we talked before. So
Yeah. So if I'm breaking down this interface, the left side of it, there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, I would guess. Like the left section with a tab with a song mode, and then in the center there is this block of buttons, and then on the right there are the tracks, and then at the bottom there is the play, stop, record, and the encoders. How what's the hierarchy here? How are things organized? Why are they like this?
yes, uh, you have the process is you have some functions, then you translate them in buttons. But as you know, this is not the way this has have been done. So it is the contrary. Here you have these buttons available, and you have to choose what you do with them.
Okay.
That's the honest truth. And many of these functions were already defined, you know, save, load, copy, paste, and all these things. For sure, they are all pasted together. It's
Mm-hmm.
like management, but there is this little like random, with maybe shouldn't be here. It should be here the pattern generator because all the addition features are here grouped. And this has been this way almost from the beginning.
Yeah.
Also, the init end have been there here for a long time. Follow function as well. And I had a lot of struggle with these 3 buttons. For sure, these buttons as well, always here from the beginning. Sequencers, transport bar, shift,
Yeah.
and like different views. These are buttons that take you out of the sequencer view. This is the song mode of our arranger, the keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
and once you are in the keyboard or in chord mode, you can use as well the arpeggiator.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they are like totally separated functions from the other, right? So they are in this side, and for
Yes.
sure the tab, which in the beginning was only sync, so you can
Mm-hmm.
change for sure the synchronization of the clock,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also tab.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the final one because down here is the config access, but the rest is the same. And you see for encoders,
Mm-hmm.
the encoders you change main MIDI parameters, as you can see, of velocity, octave, gate. Uh, it has been this way from the beginning as well. It's like really performative. For example, if you attach the velocity to whatever, you can like really adjust in immediately the velocity of all the steps, the octave. And since this was like a compositional tool, having the scale and root really handy was important for me, and I put them as secondary functions here. And as you can see, also tempo and swing. So wherever you are, you can press shift, turn any of these encoders, and it will change the scale, the root, which is something that you won't probably do during a performance. But when you are composing, and you have like a melody running or a chord, it is really fun to change the scale to get a totally different feel from the same pattern, you know. It's something that we like a lot. Also the swing, the tempo,
Yeah.
and then there is like this modulation. For example, here is where we get the most with Carlos. People, when the product was already out, I mean, when I started like sharing with the world the product, some people like thought, oh, there is only one modulation lane, and I agreed, yeah, that's not enough, because if you want to modulate a few parameters, so inside this, like when you press this button, the like the full CC modulation pop-ups, and you can have 4 modulation lanes, which is like really cool. Thanks to Carlos, we have the recording. Well, thanks to Carlos, we have a lot of things like a much more polished, product with cool details that I would have missed otherwise. And it's really nice having someone to discuss, and someone really, with clever. I mean, clever is not someone smart that really points you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So you don't have to code 3 times the same. You only code once because you already have very clear what you have to implement. And yeah, it was really between Carlos and me where we get to the final polishment and refinement of this user interface.
Yeah, it really feels like a small computer. When I'm looking at it, it's very clear to understand the structure of the buttons that are actually closer to you for performance. So the transpose, the shift, all the grid that I know that you can press and hold and then change the encoders immediately, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so this makes it highly performative because you don't really need to dive into no menus. 4 encoders is enough for you to fix all the main things that you need on each note. And if you can press a bunch of them together and do that, that's super useful.
Yeah, exactly. And just one thing to add to that, we added a lot of automation to the parameters. So it's about performance, but you can automate a lot of things too, and really easily. So you can focus on other stuff. There's a lot of features, but you don't have to control by hand everything at the same time. You can let things flow, and you can focus on the parts that you enjoy doing, because this thing does a lot. You can play live chords, and the rest of the sequencers follow your chord playing. I think there's a sweet spot for everyone in there. Like, if you like to play live your melodies, you can do it. If you prefer the power of sequencing and motion recording, you can do it. So it's not focused on one thing. There's many things that are easily accessible, so you can choose what's better for you.
Yeah. If you think about the target audience of this, it's fairly broad.
Yes, it is.
Yes, definitely.
That was my
did you have a specific like some musicians that you had in mind, like this kind of a musician is going to play this? Like, were there like groups of people that you imagined? Or was it fairly intuitive?
For example, with the composition stuff, many DAO producers will get a lot from Oxi, because there are not a lot of MIDI controllers in the market that are useful for apart from pianos and Rolly and this kind of stuff. But apart from that, there are not a lot of gear that helps you improving your composition or like improving your workflow. But with this, for example, with the chord mode, you can lay a chord progression that is really crazy, because you can have a lot of kind of chords that are already like organized. So it's really difficult to have something that doesn't sound great. I mean, it's really simple to change, and that's something that many people struggles a lot in the when they are producing, no? Because you have your piano roll, and if you don't know anything about music theory, or if you know but you know the basics, you won't come up with complex chord progressions like you can hear really easily.
Right. So it's basically these people.
That's one target.
Yeah. So someone who knows how, like, they have the musical ear, but they don't really have the theoretical knowledge, and then they would be able to. It will enable them to make things that they wouldn't be able to do without it, because the piano roll requires you to understand the theoretical
Exactly.
part of. Yeah.
Then for sure, when Carlos added, when Carlos joined, he's a music modular
Enthusiast.
enthusiast,
Yeah.
and I want to add like modular support, but more basic. So if I don't know in the process how I know that I purchased, for example, the Arturia Mini Brute, but I have a rough idea, and I wanted to have the basic CV support, I think. And then I think I added like 8 gates for all drums and 4 CVs for the basic pitch and bell, velocity or pitch and modulation. We were, in that sense, I wasn't bringing anything new. So Carlos pushed me. I don't know why, really, why did you think, Carlos, that this could be a good solution for modular world, that we decide to go all in with eight CVs?
Yeah, I think it's not about the amount of CVs, but how.
No, but before deciding the number of CVs that we have now, what was your motivation? How do you remember what was the point where we decided to, like, let's make a very great integration of the modular gear? I don't remember.
I don't remember the point. I think it was like a flow. Like it came like, yeah, we have to do this. But I don't remember the turning point exactly when was that.
Because you have to reach that point first, you know. It's not.
Yeah.
And now I'm telling Ro that it has to be the motivation first, and then the implementation. So it took a while for me to, like, how do you say, to change my mind and to accept that if we wanted to go full modular, we had to go from 4 CVs to 8 CVs, and from poor routing menu or configuration, or to the layout that we have now. But also in the middle, it took time for me to learn about, to train myself about the different implementations that were already in the market, and to realize what is missing, right, in general, fixed configuration, right?
Yeah.
Or poor routing capabilities, okay? And we solve all this. It is no longer poor, it is no longer fixed, it's totally flexible. And but you can do this if you don't get experience, for example, with poly stuff, which has its peculiarities. You have to be you need your buffers, your allocation of voices, and that's not trivial stuff. I mean, it's not trivial because being able to configure for a poly sequencer, for example, that has 7 voices, but you only want to get 2 CVs because you only want to have 2 voices playing, and how do you channel all these 7 voices through only 2 CV outputs that you choose, that requires a lot of software in the middle to make things work and intuitively for the user. I mean, without.
That's I think the biggest, what I find the most impressive about this is that it really seems for the amount of it's very, very open-ended. And for the amount of functionality in something that is so open-ended, it's really simple, it's really small, and it's really simple. How, if you think about, like, did you ever make some sort of a flowchart showing all the different features and how they connect to one another? How do you build something like this? Like, is there like a drawing and then coding it? Or like, what is the process of putting all these functionalities into the instrument?
Nah, it's about thinking a lot.
It's all in your head.
Yes,
but I think there's no there's, of course you have the background, what holds everything together, but they're like a small interconnected island, so there's no hierarchy, there's nothing above the rest. It depends on you. You choose, the user will choose what island they want to stay in, because it's more fun for them.
You say islands. I find it that's a really good word to use here. Could you specify what islands are designed here? Like, what would you call an island?
Yeah, definitely. For sure. The keyboards, each sequencer has its keyboard, but the keyboard, it's based on the mode you are. For example, in chord keyboard, you have tons of on the right side, you have quick access to change in voicings, spread of the chord. So that's definitely an island itself, because you can spend there hours and playing around chords, and it's just fun. And that's just a small part of the keyboard of the chord mode. But the multi-track keyboard, it's also nice because you have solos, mutes, arm track, so you can play around easily all the tracks from just instant with buttons.
Yeah,
that could be another island.
The keyboard mode is the one from the bottom left, the third one. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then you press on. Yeah.
Let me check if I have a. Well, you see.
I see the changes in the. That's also really cool. Like there is.
You want to make a GIF?
there is a change in the layout that is like a millimeter or what?
Yeah, 2 millimeters to make room for the labels, because some people don't like but we in the end went for the bigger keyboard, because you use this a lot, and you don't, once you memorize what encoder does, you no longer need the labels.
Yeah, so the spacing between the buttons is more important than the text. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
It's the little decisions that you have to make when you're making something like this. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there is another reason behind that changing this will require to change the mold. So, and it's a lot of work and money, and
yeah, of course.
So it's really going to make a difference. I'm really going to spend 2 months of work and money, and maybe in the end it doesn't work out and it's stupid, it's useless. So
yeah.
And for this kind of decisions, I asked like to 6 people more or less, not more, and they agreed. No, we want the. So I was like, yeah, oh, come on, I don't have to do it.
but you ask 6 people. These are like producers, friends of yours.
Yes, Carlos, Alex, which is the other, the marketing. I mean, yes, I call the marketing colleague, and a few more people that were involved, hardware designers. I got help along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you say? Not paid help. It's like desinteresado, Carlos.
Yeah, uninterested help.
Yeah, just just people who are genuinely interested in it and want to give an advice. Yeah, of course. That's
Well,
that's how you build relationships. People are genuinely interested in what you do, and they want it to happen. Yeah, I think.
I can find the keyboard mode. I wanted to show you. There is the arranger view. Here it is. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the keyboard.
Yeah, and the keyboard, as you can see, it has a very specific layout, right?
Mm-hmm.
The notes are here. I know there are the isomorphic layout exists, and many sequencers use it. But and I tried different layouts before sticking to this, and we can add the isomorphic in the future for sure if it's needed. It's just about adding it to the configuration, and we will then figure out how to keep things as they are with the isomorphic view, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
The main reason of this keyboard is that, and what is cool for us is that once you change the scale or the root, you can immediately see which are the notes that are available in that, and that's you can spend hours trying different scales. For example, the Japanese. How the fuck it looks the Japanese scale, and which are the notes? Let's see. And you go to the keywords and you see, oh, this is cool because, and music theory, then coming back, it has only 5 notes. It has a minor third between the third and the fourth degrees, and then another one minor second, and just minor second, I think.
Yeah, but even they might even not know these terms, but it's very obvious and you can play it. It makes it very, very intuitive to just come up with.
And why the Japanese sounds this way and why it is so cool. It is because it has few notes and the way they are distributed, and you can't see that in an isomorphic keyboard, but you can find, and maybe you can find that you can realize that your favorite scale is the Japanese.
Yeah.
And you can use it for all your stuff, and it gives you the sound that you are looking for. And it is really, for me, it's really, really great. And when you play the chords, you can see how, for sure, the lights turn on, and you can see how the voices of the chord are distributed here.
Yeah. I'll ask you also to send me this picture, this specific one. I think this will be very useful to maybe write about. Yeah, because I find it really beautiful what you're saying. Like this is a very open-ended instrument. It can be for a lot of different purposes, but obviously you're leaning towards people who are not they can be professional electronic musicians, but maybe they're not classically trained, and you're enabling them to explore new territories by creating an interface that is very intuitively teaching them different ways of combining notes. So yeah, that's definitely going to make a very interesting write-up. What's the right side? I know there is also a function for the right side. Maybe that's the last question I'm going to ask you, because we're really running late, and I'm sure that you guys have a lot of stuff to do. On the right side, how do you you have there 4
Carlos
buttons?
was telling you about that.
Yeah, basically, the first 2 columns from the left, you can choose the inversion of the chord, basically. So if I remember correctly, from bottom to top, well, it depends on the mode. But if, for example, if you are in minor, you have minor 7. Well, it's well organized, so it makes sense.
It's not
when you
that,
go.
It's not
but you
really
can maybe explain it better, Manu.
If you are, for example, in a major scale, In a C major, the first chord is major, and the second degree of the scale is a minor. So these chords, if you play the degree that corresponds to a major chord, they will trigger a major chord, but they will be modified by these two columns. You can't see actually which, that's not the proper exact, I mean, it could be a label here showing you which chord it is, but you can see here in the screen, because this way we can have flexible chords here. Otherwise, if we print it, they will be fixed forever. So you start with the minor triad or major, depending on the chord you are playing, you are triggering from the keyboard. Then you go for a little bit more complex, or more, not complex, because this would be the sixth instead of the seventh. I mean, instead of the fifth, sorry. And this is the triad with the seventh added. This is one is with the ninth, and the list goes on until we go to major two with 11th, you know. And these are the inversions. And now there is a new column. It's new from 2 months ago, I believe. And this is the
something like that.
So you can get, with a simple triad, you can get many more voices, but by just stacking the available voices, which is cool. With some synthesizers, you get more fat sounds.
Okay, let me just clarify if I understand. So on the left side, the blue and red are notes that I play on the scale.
Yeah,
on the right side, I press
exactly.
a note and it basically plays a chord.
No, modifies.
No.
It modifies the chord.
Yeah, basically what you play on the left, you play just pressing one pad, you play a chord in the chord mode.
Okay.
So the pad you press is the root note. And
right.
depending on the modifier on the right, you play with different chords or inversions or spread.
Right.
I would recommend you the video Carlos made. And
yeah, with that,
and I will show.
Yeah, but what I'm curious, can you go back to the screenshot again?
Where we were, where it was here.
So this is in chord mode. What happens if I'm just on just a melody, looking at the keyboard for the
mono?
Mono.
You don't have these columns, and you will only be able to play to use it as a keyboard, as a normal keyboard, and you can like turn on the arpeggiator and use it as an arpeggiator or whatever. It's the cool features are not available in all modes.
yeah. No, but I mean, yeah, you have to make compromises. So that makes sense. Though.
Yeah, and that's a reason. It has a reason because if you want to record, you can't record chords from other mode than the chord mode, right? I mean, chords, one note triggering one chord. I mean, you know what I mean? In the body, for sure, you can play several notes and you will get a chord, but your chord. But this way, you exactly play the chord that you are choosing here, and that's then what you get in the sequencer, you know. And it is pretty cool. You know, a lot of people say, I want to have my own chords. That's the one of the main requests, not, but several people have requested that. But that's not the purpose of this, you know. Because if you program your chords, it's because you already know which the chord you want to use. This is the other approach. You want to get inspired by this mode to find chords that suit to your taste. And to see how the same progression with with triads can be improved by adding more voices more complexity to the chords.
Yeah.
And to see how the sound involves that. I'm not involved. Sorry, how the sound get like more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's all very interesting. I completely understand the yeah, you cannot have all features together, and it would actually not really make sense. Just like you said, when you want to play your own chord, then you want to play your own chord. This will limit you. But if you do not know the chords, and not necessarily you don't really know the theory behind it, but you're just looking for some inspiration, then this is more for this either learning space or inspirational space, where it is pre-programmed for you, so it allows you to express yourself quickly and in a different way than when you have all the control to define what notes you want to play. Otherwise, you just go to the other to the poly version, for the poly mode of it.
Exactly.
Which is literally a button away. So
yeah, and you can just press in the first sequencer, you can have chord mode. In the second one, you can have poly, and yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, super cool.
We may add in the future the possibility to add your own chords and be able to trigger your own chords here, for example,
to save them to the side.
All the columns are like occupied by chords, so there are no room for more. But maybe to remove some of them and to add your own.
Yeah, it's
maybe
like
in the polyphonic mode, actually. Like right now, the right bar is not
that's
used,
where Carlos,
and you can press.
Carlos is working already. Happy hour of Carlos. Give me a paper.
Yeah, I think it could be a good idea. So you can program your chords on polyphonic, so you can have
that kind of ideas that I purchase in the moment. Take my money.
Yeah, no, but it's
buy some beer.
If you're playing, if you're pressing already the 4 or 5 notes you're playing, and then you just press and hold for 2 seconds, and then this chord is
shit. You are now part of Oxi already.
then you basically have it saved, and then on the screen you see, okay, this is chord this and this. It gives you the name also of the chord.
If we make a video and we don't mention you, it's because we forget, because we would like to give credit to all the people. Okay, so remember.
No, that's good. We're starting now, actually, sort of a mastermind pro group with the academy, because I'm meeting a lot of really interesting people like you guys, and I'm thinking, we could just have like a weekly or bi-weekly meeting where we just share things that we're working on, and everybody's working on a different. It's like, it's not students; these are like professional people working together. But then yeah, there are a lot of modular synth designers, and also like professionals that are going even further, like you guys, that I think can really benefit from just like brainstorming and talking about things like this. You can come up with like really wild ideas just because you really understand what's the idea behind the project. It's not just an instrument. There is a very specific person or a few people that you're thinking about, even if it is such an open-ended and complex instrument. There is a very specific target audience for that button, and then for another button, because you have fairly good amount of buttons on the left side, you don't really need to do any menu diving, and it can cater for different kinds of people in a very simple way. Like, I could totally imagine my 3-year-old playing on this mode and really enjoy it. And I'll probably get inspired. I mean, he would stand on a chair here and play with this, but he has no idea what he's doing. And with this, I think it can trigger things that are a bit different. So it's beautiful. Anyway, guys, this was super insightful. I'm really happy that we had a chance to talk. I know you guys are really busy, so I'm gonna leave you to it and allow you to do your thing.
To rest.
Yes.
Speaking English is
come on, Manu. You said you wanted to improve.
I think this is really remarkable, and especially, I mean, this is a really big challenge you took on yourself. These are the kind of projects that you expect companies like Arturia to come up with, and you just said,
Yeah,
no,
was
I'm not going
crazy.
to do modular. I'm just going to build this really complex thing that normally companies with hundreds employees do, and I'm just going to do it from home. That's
But you know that I am not the only crazy doing thing, and there are a lot of mutable instruments, sleeper, expert sleeper,
yes,
and a few more. And the dilutes, you probably know it.
a
You
few,
probably know.
a
Do
few
you know
more.
the dilutes?
Yeah, but it's all these people you're talking about are like very, very admirable because they are taking a leap and they're making things that are, yeah. I mean, what Emily releases is, I really don't understand how her mind works. It's just it's a whole world of,
She's
it's
another
magic.
level from.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's magic. It's beautiful.
For I think that the Oxi is already like a very inspiring product, but I couldn't do that without the inspiration of Emily.
Yeah,
So that's the only reason that I want to do this open source in the future. That's the only reason.
yeah,
Because thanks to her resources, I figure out how to do a lot of things. Not everything for sure. You can't get everything from her, but many things. Yeah, and it's cool that to give out, like, it's giving away a lot of effort, giving free. Yeah, it's really crazy. You have to think a lot about the value of the GitHub repositories that are not the crap ones, for sure, the ones that contain useful information.
yeah.
And in
Properly
the future,
documented.
Oxi will be a reference for other people to make things. I am not the best programmer, so I have to take care what I post. But yes, that the idea is for sure the code that is now in the Oxi is much better than the one that was 1 year and a half ago. Now things make more sense, but there is still room for improvement, and yeah, I think keeping things close, it's normal because you have to pay salaries and you have to
Of course.
and it's normal. You can have anything against that, but opening stuff, it has a lot of benefit for the world.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks so much, guys, and good luck with this. And
Thank you, Roy.
yeah,
Thank you.
we'll keep in touch. Take care.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Ciao.
Good luck.
It was
Bye
really
bye.
nice chat.
Cheers.